How you doing, everybody? My name is Paul G. I am an alcoholic and an addict, and I thought I'd throw a little video together about early sobriety. I can remember the first probably the first 6 months at least of sobriety, and how boring it was. And our brains always just think the worst. We always worst case scenario kind of thing. And it's like, you know, I occupied all my time before coming into to AA with drinking, drugging, getting money to do those things. And that was it. And it was a lot of fucking work. And there was more time than money back then. So I would, what do they say? The month ran out before the money did. No, the money ran out before the month did. And I was always, I'd get money and burn right through it. Yep, big bag of crack, let's go. And you're done with the money by the fifth of the month, and now you got no money until the next check comes in, which is usually welfare. I would do some kind of side hustles or whatever, and go work a day here, a day there, with people that I knew, and they'd pay cash at the end of the day, and it would just be gone. And that was a vicious cycle for a lot of years, and I was like. That was a lot of how I dealt with, stress, and this is just what I did. I drank. That's what I was Olympically trained to do. I drank to be happy. I drank when it sucked, and there was a lot of drinking around having a shitty life. I drank with all the chaos, that was created from drinking. I drank because of that, to cope with that. That was my coping mechanism. And now you remove all that. So you remove, first of all, the time it takes to get the money to live that lifestyle, and then living the lifestyle. So there's days and nights where it's like, now what? And yes, throw myself into meetings. So I went to a lot of meetings. I figured out which meetings I liked, but it was like in my brain, it's like, is this it? This is life now? This is what I'm fucking doing? Like, I'm going to be in a fucking church basement on a Friday night and a Saturday night and a Sunday night. And, the repetitiveness of some of the meetings I went to, that's kind of what the first 3 months is all about, is figuring out which meetings you like. There was some meetings that I went to, it would take a half an hour just to do all the fucking readings, and it was like, I don't I hate this, and I don't like a lot of readings where there's the man in the mirror and the fucking footsteps in the sand, or you get all that, and then somebody's doing the promises and somebody's doing the slogans, and it's I just want to, I don't know, I didn't know what I wanted. I fell into these men's groups, and I really like those, and I still got those in my life today. I'm like 16 years sober, so I still do 3 men's groups every week. And one of them I started myself in Brockville here on a Friday. But you get in that mentality, and it's like, oh fuck, this is it, this is life. Like, what am I gonna do? And I'm here to tell you that just stick around, because what happens now is, first of all, you got a clear mind. So you can now, whatever you're working at, you can excel at. So myself, when I got sober, I threw myself into my own painting business, and I was doing handyman stuff around then too. So I had all this time on my hands, I had a clear brain. So I made a flyer, and I went into the glebe, and I stapled it to everything that was fucking wood, all up and down Bank Street. And I started getting calls. These ladies would be walking their dogs. They'd be at a corner. There'd be a telephone pole there that's made out of wood, and there's my sticker with a little pull tab, jobbies. There's my little flyer. And I was able to respond to them fast. I was able to come over to have a look at what they did, and then work and then do it. At that time, I didn't have a driver's license, and I was living with my mom. I was, on her couch, and if I had a job, I remember I landed a basement there, and I got her to drop all my tools off with me, I did have tools, so. And whatever I needed, I would either rent or I would buy, and then I accumulate tools. On every single job, I would buy something, like a drill or a drill set or something, and I was able to focus on that instead of let's just get the money and then spend it and then not show up and fucking fuck it right up. So I was able to do that again and again and again and again, but I needed to change things, right? So what did I need to change? I need to change everything. First of all, money was my fucking trigger. So I had to give all my money to my mom, and she gave me enough for smokes. She made sure that I had food, and I would give her money for food. And by the end of, I think it was probably 45 days, 60 days, 2 months of doing that, I had like, I don't know, 8 grand, and I was able to move out, and she helped me, and she drove me around, and we found a nice place. I painted it, we furnished it, and I had a fucking place, and I just kept doing that. And at night I go to meetings, so I was able to shift it there, and but then it was like, okay, so then I figured out my routine. It wasn't, after 90 days, it wasn't 90 and 90. It was like, okay, I like this meeting, that meeting, this meeting. And I had 4 meetings that I picked. It was one every second day and one on Saturday. So it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and one on Saturday. Because Saturdays and weekends were my party weekends, right? So it was like, okay, I get to go to a meeting that night. And as well, on Saturdays, I would do something for myself. I would always cook. And I can remember, and I still try to do this, where, I would go buy the steak. I would buy the baked potato with its that has the tinfoil on it. At the grocery stores, it's more expensive, but it's all there and ready. And I bought the sour cream, and I bought the bacon bits, and the fucking the chives. I had everything, and I had a nice side of asparagus, and I took the time to prepare all this and have a big ass fucking meal. And then I'd buy these specialty fucking bubblies and these funky looking drinks that are cool, that are not alcoholic. And I would do that for myself every Saturday night at about 5:30 or so, and I'd eat, I'd wash my dishes, and I'd go to a meeting, and that would be my weekend treat. Another thing I used to do too was because I was a huge beer drinker, we also withdraw from sugar. If you quit beer, most of your crap, I was told, and this worked, most of my cravings are coming from sugar withdrawal. And it was like, fuck, man, I didn't realize there was that much sugar in beer. But, now it was like every night at 10 o'clock, I would have a couple of chocolate bars. So I'd go to Giant Tiger, and I think they had them for about 60 cents then, Aero bars and whatever, and I would just fill a fucking bag full of those, and I'd have those always. And that would be my nightly fucking thing to do. That was my routine at night, and it was like, oh, I feel better, And it was like, then it's manageable. And then it was like my world opened up. I got my license back. I was able to get a car. I had a place to live. And now I'm starting to buy shit, And as long as I'm focused and there for people and show up on time and start building my integrity back up again, everything kept getting better. So, I used to pawn stuff like crazy. And I'd have 4 sets of pawns going on, and I would get my money at the end of the month, and I'd cash in 1 pawn, and then I'd have that, and then I would take that pawn probably on the 6th of the month and bring it back in, and then when I get the money from that, I'd pay the interest on the other pawn. It was just fucking ridiculous. So, I dealt with this guy, Louis, on Wellington Street, and when I got sober, I started, first of all, I got all the pawns out. So I got all of it out. Then I started going there and buying shit. So one of the first things I bought with this was this necklace here, or this bracelet. And I paid $850 for this. And it was probably 6 months into sobriety where I bought this. And then I bought not this ring, but a ring just like it for my 1 year anniversary. And it was like another pinky ring that I had that it was, this is the exact duplicate of that ring. It got stolen. So I had pictures of the ring, and I did this probably 5 years ago. It got stolen probably 8 years ago. So I didn't have it for 3 years, and I was like, fuck, I wish I could get another duplicate of that. And my wife gave me the picture and said here, why don't you see what you can do with that? And I blew it up, and yeah, there's the ring. And my jeweler guy was able to do that. And I think for my 2 year anniversary, I got this tag watch, which is a $2,000 watch. I paid $1,200 for it. And, I was able to start doing that sort of shit for myself. But in between there, it was like I started getting to know the guys at my home group, and they were into diving, and I got sober in May, beginning of May. I took a diving course probably in late September, and it was fucking cold because we were up. I had to do my certification up in Quebec at this quarry, and it was like November when I actually dove and did the test and got certified. But that being said, I was able to make enough money the first year to go down to Mexico. We went down to fucking Playa del Carmen, and Cozumel is a little island off of there that the diving is fantastic. So I started traveling down south with these other alcoholics, and we had a fucking blast, man. It was like, talk about having a good time without drinking. Yeah, we were staying at a resort that had all you could drink and all you could eat, right? But the drinking part, I was drinking, but I was drinking cappuccinos. Yeah, I got hooked on those. I drink a ton of coffee now as well, too. But cappuccinos, and nothing better than sitting on a fucking beach and drinking, I used to like, and I still do, tomato juice on ice, So tomato juice on ice, it wakes your fucking mouth up. You're looking out at the ocean, and it's just like, this is why I'm doing this, And so I started traveling, going down to the Caribbean a lot, and it was like, I'd go down alone sometimes, because my wife would look after the dogs here, and I would go down south, and I would look after the dog, and she would go do something else. She'd either go to Europe or she'd go down south as well, too, with some of her friends. And it was a good thing. So I've been down south many, many times by myself, but I'd always organize a couple of dives when I went down there. Then I started buying cameras, underwater cameras and shit. And that's the kind of shit that opens up to you as long as I don't drink. If I drink, then all that shit disappears, because as soon as I drink, I get on the phone with my dealer, and now I'm into cocaine. And you know what? I don't make enough money, I don't know anybody that has that much disposable money to do as much cocaine as I wanted to do, Like I said, I ran out of money way before I ran out of fucking month. So that's a reality of what it is. So get to know some people, Go to these meetings, meet people, chit chat with them, go to fucking Tim Hortons and have coffees with them. Sort out your problems, like get yourself fixed. You're fucked right now. I can tell you, as if you're early in sobriety, you are a broken fucking person. I know I was, and I know everybody I talk to in early sobriety has got so much baggage and crap that, residue of the past, and just because you remove drugs and alcohol from your system doesn't mean that your brain is still that same brain, Now you've got to cope differently. Now you've got to learn You got to do some work on yourself, and it's not fucking easy. You've got to figure out what makes yourself tick, what your triggers are, what you have to change, which is everything. If it means walking in a different fucking direction to go to your house so that you're not passing the bars, then that's what you got to do. You've got to make sure you're eating right. Rehab is great for that. It teaches you how to fucking have 3 meals a day, how to make your bed in the morning, all that shit that seems trivial. It's really fucking important. That one little lesson. You make your bed in the morning, even if you have the shittiest fucking day in the world, you're going to bed at night in a freshly made bed, and there's something about that that's liberating and nice. What did I start doing? I started buying $10 tube socks, because I wear white socks all the time. And there is no better feeling than getting out of a shower and putting on a pair of fucking brand new white socks, and it's 20 pairs for $10. And it's 50 cents to feel that feeling. And you know what? I still do it today and I fucking love it. I'll buy tube socks and I'll buy fucking new slippers. And it's just like, these little things that we can do for ourselves to recognize, that once a week steak thing. That's important, man. You need to do something every single fucking week for yourself and congratulate yourself. Like, fuck, this is not easy. Staying sober is not an easy thing to do. It's simple. The program's simple, but it's not easy. It really isn't. There's a lot of mental work involved in that, which you absolutely need to have a sponsor to do that with, to guide you and ask questions, and humble yourself and be okay that you don't have the answer. Because who the fuck are you? Your best thinking got you into a church, 5 nights a week. That's your best thinking. That's where it got you. And you know what? You need to have that feeling of hopelessness. You need to be hopeless in order for this to work. And however, I'm here to tell you that if you stick around and if you do the things that people suggest and you start hanging out with other men or women or people who you look up to, you're going to level up by just hanging out with those people. And be humble. Don't think you have all the answers, because you fucking don't. And in step 2 and 3, when there's a higher power, I did a bunch of exercises around who the fuck am I and what do I know? And I don't know much. I don't. And I got no problems asking somebody who's been through some shit that I am going through now, that got through it sober, ask them how they did it. I got no problems with that at all. Or if I'm having an issue with whatever in life, not just not drinking, fucking, hey, I got a relationship thing here. I'm going through this with my wife. What do you think I should do? And I'll get some fucking feedback. I never had that when I was drinking. Who's telling you that at a bar? At a bar, there is like, why don't you quit drinking? Maybe you don't spend so much time here and your relationships will be better. That's common sense right there. But I wasn't hearing that when we were at the bar. But you know what? We have a room full of people and several fucking rooms full of people that we can take some advice from. And these are all guys who have been there before. And, we don't get that in real life. In real life, that costs a ton of money, to get counseling and everything. And you're listening to one person. And they're mostly making, they're asking you questions about, what was it like? How were you feeling? I don't fucking know. I didn't know how I was feeling. I was always drunk, I didn't have, I was drinking to drown the feelings. So I hope this helps you. And listen, I don't have enough time in my days to do everything that I want to do. All I got to do is I do 3 meetings a week. I dedicate 3 hours and I get 140, 64 hours in a week to do whatever the fuck else that I want to do, and I'm not done. You know, I'm not. And it can happen to you, and it will, if you want it. But I fucking got to a point where I needed it. I wanted it. And I had to change. That was the hopelessness of me coming in and giving up and surrendering. But once you surrender, now you've got a bunch of people who you don't have to surrender. You can face this. So hang in there. And like I said, I'm Paul. I'm an alcoholic. And I hope this helps.